There's a lot I want to say about the passion of creativity and what a single person can do with their creativity. For me, creativity has been a part of me since the very beginning, and over time it has become a part of you, which has made me very proud of what book publishing has become today. This company goes back to the very artistry of creative people and the passion they have for their work. It makes this place I built so wonderfully beautiful in every aspect, from its people to the creative individuals I have collaborated with over the years. Since I wrote my first book, a lot has changed. This place has become responsible for over 67 books over 13 years. Of course, the small child I was back then was less involved, but now I am completely involved with what goes on at book publishing. For decades, book publishing has navigated significant change. Leadership roles have shifted, been replaced, and even removed entirely to usher in a new visionary era. These leaders have impacted the company for good and bad times. In the 2020s, I learned a difficult lesson about hiring people. It was during this period the company faced a challenging time after spreading itself too thin, overextending our brand until it became unrecognizable. I was forced to make some truly hard decisions. We restructured the company, making change that was necessary for our future. While we made some questionable decisions during our most difficult period from 2022 to 2023, we have since reverted some of the damage caused by the old leadership. In 2025, we found a clear path to sustainability, marked by great success and a renewed sense of purpose. Now that we have a renewed sense of purpose, I have thought a lot about what makes a creative driven company successful. A few things come to mind. You need to be a creative, passionate person who believes that what we are making can change the world in unexpected ways, especially in the realm of technology. I can remember when I would be the one writing my stories and doing the illustrations all by hand and duplicating them, which took several months to complete, plus the amount of effort it took for revisions, text, and hand drawn covers. Technology has been a tool that has enchanted the experience, but has not replaced the beauties of those days. When you look at creative people and how they can use technology, it is a truly wonderful thing. It has offered us the ability to push the very boundaries of storytelling. There is so much that publishing can do and can become, and those futures are scary for me to pursue, but you have to take that risk, and I have taken that risk many times and will continue to do so. Book publishing stands out in the world of publishing for several reasons that have shaped its core identity today. It has set itself apart from other publishing houses in the world by connecting with its readers not just through its stories, but also making it a experience through my own fan base. They celebrate these stories through my continuous effort to connect with them on a stronger level than any other author has done in history. Book publishing was a place where I could own my books, a place where I had control of my books. And over time, that became more about establishing a brand connection for the author themselves, me. From the very beginning, this journey has never been about the money. It has always been about the passion that goes into creating books, a passion that is at the heart of every creative community. There is a true demand for these books. Unlike other publishers, we set ourselves apart by releasing only 3 to 5 books a year. This makes each publication feel like a personal experience and a special event. By 2025, our community has become its own identity, and it was time to give our company a name that truly reflected it. The name book publishing no longer fits. It feels generic and doesn't represent the personal connection we've built. This brand I've always poured myself into, but I've always had a fear. What happens when the brand becomes so intertwined with me? I was initially scared of the fame and popularity, but I've learned that in any creative industry, this is bound to happen. So I'm choosing to embrace it. From now on, book publishing becomes Robert Lee's publication. This change means a lot for all of you, my audience. My book, Fearless and Boundless, came from a place of personal struggle, a way of letting go of the past while honoring my legacy and celebration of my career as a whole. The second part, Boundless, was written during one of my happiest times of my life, which is now. and gave you a private look into my relationships and love life. It was because of you, the fans, I was able to get back into the negotiation room to reclaim the rights to my books. There were so many times I was this close to getting them back, only to have the door close. But now I have been able to get my life work back, and for that I will be forever grateful to you. I first had the idea for this change while making this book and seeing how large our fan base has become, but also when I got the rights to my books back. In 2025, I began to see myself not as just as a writer or a business person, but as the brand itself. I realized that to grow, I need to protect my name and identity. Naming the company after myself reinforces the idea that this business isn't a faceless corporation. It is the true version of myself, a extension of me as an author and a person that pushes the boundaries of the industry. This is also about protecting my name and my identity so that no one can say these books aren't mine or pretend to be me as well. The company has turned into something bigger than myself, and now it's fully me. The imprints themselves are getting new names. Book publishing children becomes Meekins. Book publishing teens becomes Becker. Book publishing adults becomes Dakota. This is a truly wonderful experience. Now enjoy this little thing I have put together for you. Collection of stories, memories, and even moments. This dream began for me in August of 2011 with a mother whose sickness was getting worse by the evening of a sunset bloom. Across the country, into the city of Gatineau, moments flash into the hands of my aunt as she steps out to the seaside near our deck. Words were written, drawings were made at the time, not by me, but by my aunt. These moments at sunrise were the beginning of the person you know very well today. 2012 was when it truly came into focus for me. My teacher, Miss Meekins, was the first to hear the story of three owls and their mother. A desk and a room, like any other classroom, but the bond we shared has stood on the great pillars of great teachers. Even after her death, she was the editor and I was the author. She perfected my stories into charms of classic compared to that of Tale of Peter Rabbit, Peter Pan, and even the likes of Roald Dahl. 23 tales crafted through eras of my life, which have since helped you form your own community. Sadly, the world would only see 21 of those tales. Her death arrived like the dry, salt air of May, and I take a day, a moment of memory, for the teacher who shaped story after story. She went beyond just marking grades and classwork to perfecting the beauty of myself, Robert Lees, over time. Each book is a piece of the era, a chapter that closes to welcome the rebirth of myself, marked by shift from blonde hair to now brown, and changes in my clothing style, colors, and mood. I had a dream, and a pen, and a world to craft, and if it wouldn't have been for Miss Meekins, there would be none of this. Then there was Miss Becker, who helped me improve my spelling, especially those tricky Z's and S sounds. Miss Becker is a teacher who continues to be a part of my life, even years after her last lesson with me. I remember her words: "One day, you'll look back and you'll be the teacher." Miss Dakota had the passionate cheer of a fan in the crowd, the one who asked for 10 copies of one of my books on its release date. This book stays in my heart for many reasons, but for that one amazing reason, it will always be my favorite. Miss Washington has been there, in my opinion, since day one, the most die-hard fan I've ever had in my community. She truly shaped the image of this fan base and would be there through every release, every read along, and I don't think there will ever be a fan like her again. The House of Lees. Building our forever home begins today. Over time, this community has been on the run with me, shouting my name, waiting for the next time I surprise them with a new book or the next era. I've seen how over 13 years you've grown, changed, and become a house of sorts. Today, that connection becomes even stronger with the House of Lees. As my fan base has expanded, so have I. This was my way of expanding right alongside you, with a new vision for our community. We are no longer just a collection of individuals. We are a family. We've always been a family, but now you have a name, which you created, Leeslings. And that name, in this now beginning of our house, becomes a name more than just a label. It's a promise, a house built on a foundation of shared memories and a strong structure. Our House of Lees is built on a collection of stories, moments, and even dreams. By creating the House of Lees today as our official fan engagement and marketing team, we are solidifying the very thing that has made this journey so special, our connection. This new structure will bring the connection even closer, creating new ways to get you excited and to deepen your hype even more beyond the way you've already seen before. It's a way of celebrating our evolution together. The connection we've built will not just stay with us, it will grow and shape us into a powerful community and a powerful family. This is where you hear about my newest creations and get exciting updates on what is to come. This time I don't have some kind of trailer to show you, but the closest I can give you is a small hint of what is to come. It's a way of finally saying something I've been keeping from you for a while. I'm excited to announce my next novel, Imagination, will be coming soon. Here we go. It feels deeply emotional to have made it this far in my career. Never could I envision the impact of my fans, the reach, and the sheer explosion of my stories over time. Imagination itself is a story I've wanted to tell for a very long time now, but I kept it off until the moment felt right for me to write this kind of story. In 2022, while celebrating the 10th anniversary of book publishing, I wanted to create a book that could celebrate the history, the passion, the creativity, and of course, myself. I've worked on this book off and on, stopping and coming back to it every so often. I was so excited to celebrate such a milestone back in 2022, but the moment for this kind of book wasn't right just yet. The question then became, how could I create an immersive experience within the book itself? Every book I've written has had a central theme, but this is a career bending book. When we started to create the visuals for this book and album, I was thrilled with all the photos we found, edited, and created to make our own world. I wanted the fans to have vast landscape for this book and album. During the summer, we spent a lot of time deciding on the main cover, and we knew it was going to be the one with the purple and blue hues coming from Willow's face. This is the first book that includes jewelry, booklets, photo cards, and even posters, which I absolutely adore. There is so much imagery in this book, more than we've ever done for any other book in my entire career. In the final moments in my studio, looking over all of it, it was just a wow moment. We truly made an experience for the fans to celebrate my career as a whole. This book has a very luxurious theme to it, which we really wanted in order to tap into both sides of the story, the Willow story and the show next story, which is like a showgirl. The covers, the photos, the booklets, the jewelry, and everything else feels so amazing to me. It makes me very proud of what we've accomplished here. This has taken so many years, and to see it finally take its final form is just wow. I think the fans will truly love this. Now for the track list for my second studio album, Imagination. Track 1, Childhood. Track 2, Matera. Track 3, Desperation. Track 4, Imagine. Track 5, Willow. Track 6, Imagine Liz. This is the first half of the story, which focuses on Willow. The show next story begins on Track 7, Mastermind. Track 8, Vengeance Madam, my revenge song, as I call it. Track 9, Stolen Lullabies. Track 10, The Last Great Storytelling Age. The last three tracks connect both story arcs. Track 11, Disco Play Alley. Track 4, Restore. Track 13, Imagination. I will keep the poems a mystery until you read the book or before the book comes out. This book has two main narratives. The first centers on Willow, a very interesting character and one of my favorite in recent years. The show next showmaster character's name is Ro Laliz, a future version of myself. These two main narratives involve the characters in different but ultimately connective ways. This was the most difficult part of writing the story, as I have never done it before. I've experimented with this kind of story structure in Boundless, with Avelina and Waverly, switching between the two points of view, but it is fully realized and explored in this book. In each narrative, there is a particular story, time, and place, but they are all set in the same year, and they keep returning to each other's minds in very weird ways. A void in imagination. That's what the main cover represents, traveling through the physical embodiment of imagination and reaching the other side, like Coraline in some ways. For Willow, the charm of fashion keeps them busy in their life, just as my stories keep your life busy. But during the course of the story, we see Willow begin to have vivid dreams. And most of all, the story takes place on the cottage side of Canada, which I haven't revisited since my earliest books. For Rola Lees, their time is spent as a performer, artist, writer, director, and more as they change the world and reinvent in ways that are scary, new, and exciting and different, especially in the world of judging eyes. The showgirl idea is fully realized in this character, but with a twist. They are a different kind of character that revolves around our society today, gender fluid. The character is inspired by the career I will hopefully have one day, and is fully realized in this character, in their own personal journey, except from the gender, which is a part of their own story, fictionalized. Other characters, such as the mother, Ali, and many others, find themselves alone, experience their shift in imagination. I told my partner Ava early on when making this book I wanted a book that I was as proud of as I was with Fearless and Boundless. They stated that would be a hard thing to live up to because what you are doing with this book is so different and out there. It's a hard task. I told them I can take that on, and so here we are. I wanted to make this album just 13 tracks, not 14 or 15, because 13 is a nice number. It represents 13 years of doing creative things like this. Inside the book itself, there are a lot of photos as well, something I've never done before. I really found a passion for making photos. It's incredible to think about that. I'm over the moon about how excited I am for you, the fans, to witness such a creative project like this that breaks new ground and territory. For this book, it is all in. There is no going back. We've gone all the way in. The goal for this book was to create a banger, not just the poems, not just the music, but the story itself. It's more upbeat, but still has the sadness to it, though it is not as depressing as Fearless and Boundless was, which was like a truckload of everything I've gone through over the last 4 years. For every book I do now, I want to make it feel like its own Pacific subject, and era. The goal for this book was to be upbeat, a celebration of all that came before and went in my life, but more of a celebration of the fictional imagination we have in the world today. Going back, the reason there are only 13 songs in this whole album is I felt that was all needed to tell the story in this book. I wanted the book to focus on the quality and focus on the story more than just giving you 70 songs, and for everything to fit together so perfectly, like a puzzle. And that is what you see through this book. The songs on this album are a whole 180 from all the other songs on my last book. They are more a combination of Lana Del Rey, funny humor, and Taylor Swift songs. That's how I would describe them. Even without the melody, you will still get the songs stuck in your head, the same way I did when writing them. There is no double album or double book, just 13 songs and a lot of poems. There will be a second part to this book, a visual element. That's all I will say about that. When deciding on the cover for this book, I knew from the very beginning it was going to be Willow walking through the void and entrance to the world and pillars of imagination, feeling curiosity about that and the world around them and the imagination they feel around the world. Imagination releases very soon. Imagination is a truly wonderful book you need to read twice because it is so wonderfully complex and beautifully written that you need to read it twice to fully understand and grasp the ideas that are being told to you in this book. The three characters in this book are Willow, Rola Lees, and the Grandmaster Serving. as the most interesting role in this whole book. The Grandmaster is me, years past my prime. I've crafted the worlds you've read and the worlds you have raised yourself in. 13 across 13 years and more. The only thing I never found was a successor, someone else who could hold up that creativity and add the block. But maybe I have. All this time, it was you. Who is Willow then? Who has lived these worlds and heard the call to create? Willow is you, us, the fans. I have spent decades crafting worlds of beauty and wonder that we have discussed for years. You who took to the arts, whether you draw, write, build, or imagine, you are the children of my legacy. And one day, it will be your turn to give back. But here's the thing, you cannot be the next Robert Lee McAllister, because there's only one. What I've come to understand over 13 years is that no one can be me. But that's not what I asked for. All of you can create, whether you're in pain, happiness, or in love. You are vulnerable to criticism, indifference, insecurity, and the temptation not to care, to hide your true self so at least you won't be eaten away at. In fact, you will not be. Instead, you become the successor I could never find. You become your own person, your own legacy, your own Robert Lees. Then who is Ro-La Lees? Well, they are the future, a place we can see and will come true. The other way I look at it is the Grandmaster is the past, Willow is the present, and Ro-La Lees is the future. This is the very reason you need to read this book twice to fully understand that the same thing can have two meanings or more. With that, I will now reveal the character of Ro-La Lees is getting their own story and fame next year. In this book, you only see a part of their life. You will discover their full gender identity story in this new book I'm writing called Fame. It is not a sequel, but a standalone, just taking a character from this book and developing them more complexity in another book. Willow will not be in this book, but Allie will be in some capacity. So here's a little sneak peek at that. I heard you calling, I heard you whispering in my ear, and you told me two things. The first was a challenge. You wanted me to be more experimental with my books, to not just stay safe, but to break everything down and mold it around me. That wish has been granted. The second, and something I never thought I would do, was a call to write a play. Write a play, write a play, the echoes in my ear every single day. I never saw my books as a potential to be movies or stage productions, but while writing the character of Ro-La Lees, I saw the potential to fully explore this character and their identity, and it wasn't enough to explore it in a novel. Instead, it had to be explored in a play. I call this book The Tragedy of Fame. This will be a tragedy for the characters, and I expect it to be my longest book yet. Set in Youngstown, a fictional Canadian city you explored in imagination, the story will depict Ro-La Lee's rise to fame, and the central question will be, will they meet the same fate as their mother who drowned? I believe this book will resonate with you as a modern tragedy in the English language, a story that will seamlessly be able to be retold and adapted by others. The world has known Ralali's as a sensation, a glittering performer, and celebrated writer whose decades-long stardom has become a legend. But in Robert Lee's debut play, Fame, we peel back the curtain to reveal the truth behind the glamour. I present the fictional history of Ro La Lees, a figure who embodies the duality of fame and gender itself. The glamorous shapeshifter captivates the stage, seemingly shifting between both masculine and feminine forms. Who is the real Ra Lees? A man, a woman, or something far more transcending? Uncover the true identity in which will be my final closing chapter at St. Paul and will release on June 6, 2026. Each school I've attended has had a final piece of writing, a story they will remember for a lifetime. But I wanted to make this one as memorable as possible. It is the final story in person, in your lives, before I move into my next most uncertain chapter, college, university, who knows? The fear I had walking into these doors has transformed me into a person of so much potential. I faced the impossible, met people who have changed my life, and people who have hurt my life as well. Fame marks the glorious ending of my chapter at St. Paul. This doesn't mean it will be the last book you read from me. I have a plan as always. In early 2026, I'm aiming for a February or early March. I will move my email and website links over to Robert Lees so you can continue to be a part of that journey. I have built a home, a community, and I won't let that go so easily. Fame peels back the final curtain, the grand finale at St. Paul High School. It will be a dazzling show for you, the fans, next June. The date comes full circle, don't you think? June 6, 2026. The sixth month, the sixth day, in 2026. Before Fame comes out, you have another novel coming out. I'm excited to announce that Fearless and Boundless is getting a sequel to the poem side. However, the music part feels complete and wrapped, so we'll end the saga of storytelling next year on April 25th, 2026. The title for this book will be Peerless Poems, and the blank is intentional, as I haven't decided the second part yet. So here's a little kiss on the cheek to that world. Before Fame comes out, you have another new novel to expect next year. I'm excited to announce that Fearless and Boundless is getting a sequel to the poem side. However, the music side felt complete and wrapped, so we'll end the saga of storytelling next year on April 25th, 2026. The title for this book will be Peerless Poems, and the blank there is very, very intentional. I haven't decided on the second part yet, so here's a little sneak peek to that world again. A room, a betrayal, above the countertop light on the gray, worn-out ceiling, a sort of relief in the shape of the current, the center in which madness has been plastered all over, where the eye has been taken out and replaced by only blood. These lines were the very first to take the form of the sequel to Fearless and Boundless. Peerless. This book has been quite the success, but I do not revisit books for that reason alone, unless I think there's another story to be told in that world. For this book, I felt the story was mostly complete, just missing one final piece. The music had wrapped up its wings in Boundless, but we left Waverly and Evelina on the sunset many years later, I presume in their early 20s or 30s. This book will follow the narration in POV of both Evelina and Waverly, with some new friends and new characters along the way. This book takes place more than 15 years after the events of Fearless and Boundless. The Boundless Society's regime under the control of creative people was tested when Waverly had been driven to the crypt and madness of his own creativity. We see not a fall of the Boundless Society, but the healing of the wounds that took place 15 years ago of the woman Madam and her reign over Waverly and Evelina in Boundless. We see no happy ever after. We see the healing of the pain still in the couple, the fear of physical romance, touch, and freedom of their own expression and identity. So they leave Ottawa for Calgary, and we see the events that unfold in rage, past, and the effects of a failed test that leads to social separation anxiety, and much fear of love, friendship, taking a wrong step, fear of the world itself, which leads to explosive trauma as well. The couple has grown up to be scared, afraid, and even so much trauma that a question is unveiled: can this truly be healed completely? Well, find out next spring when Aveline and Waverly and a few old friends like Promise join them on the path of true healing. This book, Peerless, will unfold the workings of the Boundless Society like you've never seen before. They are the full center in this book, unlike in Fearless and Boundless, and are forced to come to terms with the acts that unfolded 15 years ago. Fearless and Boundless was the closest you got to a memoir for me. This book, on the other hand, is fully fictional for the most part, except for elements of the relationship, the characters of Madame, and other parts of the story. The final part of the Wavering and Avelina story arrives at you in April of 2026, exploring the themes of powerless people in a society that has tried to shift them, shape them into people who they are not, while also presenting new themes I've never explored in my books before, like the loss of agency and the pressure of full independence and the negativity outcomes of that. I'm really excited to return to this world next year in a way that feels so real, and a message and an ending to their story. I never thought there would be a sequel, but here we are. Fearless was friendship, Boundless was love, Peerless will be partnership. Fearless and Boundless becomes a book that broke all kinds of records, changing the landscape of poetry. With this book, Peerless, it will do the exact same in a different and unique way as well. I want to explore a different way to change poetry through the making of new words and very expressive prose in Peerless. I want to give the character one final story, and that is in this book, wrapping up any loose ends you had about Waverly or Avelina or even Promise. This is the ending of their story, and I am so excited to tell it next year. Fearless was letting go of great pain and sadness in the ending of friendship, which began to be shaped into the world of my life, from childhood to the Robert Lees you know today. Through Fearless came Boundless, a love story, the happiest points in my life, which I could only describe as a blend of pure evermore and pure love, with great sadness and tragedy along the way, of facing people who mock you, who challenge you, who told you things that weren't true, and unfold the tales of the most private parts of my life. The parts the public don't see till they do, how your relationship is on everybody's mind, and how you twist your own love story with the truth and show people the greatness of love through the lenses of the public figure they make you out to be. Boundless was the look into that fame, the world that watches my every move, and that was exactly the love story I wanted to tell, holding back nothing. I think Boundless is one of my favorite endings. Aveline and Waverly on their bed, sitting, looking out through the window, and acknowledging the pain that brought them to this moment. With Peerless, it was truly unexpected. I felt this was complete as it was, but the fans had more questions about the society than with Avelina and Waverly, of course. So this book answers all of those questions, and the most difficult part was writing an ending better than Fearless and Boundless. It might just be the hardest of all endings to write, but the main reason to come back was to give you the answers you've been wondering. Will there be one more story in the Fearless and Boundless saga? Yes, it will be a standalone novel, though, and that has been a story I've wanted to tell before Fearless and Boundless was ever a thing, a book that goes back before the Frank Grant story. That book being Different. Different began as a simple story, but it grew, and many versions and drafts were lost and rewritten over and over again. Different then became a story beyond what I thought it would when Fearless and Boundless was published. And this story that Different became is heartwarming, heart wrenching, raw, real, emotional, and about a love between two women like nothing the world has ever seen in literature before. This is a story that I would declare my best and actually first romance book. And earlier readers have called this book the greatest lesbian story of our time. So Different finally releases on June 26, 2026. Here's a trailer for that and probably the final one. Different releases June 26, 2026. There could be no doubt of her lesbian nature, though the immature moments with men might disagree with this. I'm going to burn it all down. Different was a different book from the very start, fleeting to the moments in a brew of happiness of a friend whose more playfully rude nature shaped and crafted the story into the many drafts of Different that have now been lost. I was grateful for the drafts that were lost, as if it hadn't been for them, there would be none of this, reaching the true and final form of Different. The rage wasn't rage. It was light-hearted, and outside a coat, a jacket, and one look, and she asked a very important question. What happens to students who are left behind, Robert? One look, one whisper, one witness, and a challenge to a question I didn't know the answer to. This past friend of mine, I think of her nearly every day, but mostly the last words she would ever speak to me. You can only save those who want to be saved. I wondered what happened to her. Is she well? Is she alive? I'll probably never get those answers, but I can fulfill one final promise. Promise is famously once about a character who had a disability in my earliest version of this book, but now they become an individual who begins as a teenager in 2023 and who has passed through school to school to school. It's remarkably complex until she lands into a special education program at another school. This character is perfectly realized by the society around her and the belief that troubled kids belong in such places. When writing this book, I had visited the place where I thought of this character nearly 5 years ago, in the countryside of Canadian history, and I could feel this character come alive for the final time. And this draft was not lost, thankfully. Instead, it blossomed into my wildest, wonderful romantic dreams. What began as a simple story about a kid who was troubled and had a disability transcended into a social story about issues, rights, and love. The third and final edition was written during the course of my co-op at St. Paul, during which I had begun to read a book titled Orlando, and it was unlike anything I had ever read about, and was curiously a book I would have never picked up in the first place. But from its mysterious cover and story, it brought me in right away. And this is the moment Different truly became different. I decided to tackle three social issues in one book: the special education programs hold students back more than helping them if they are held back for years? What if the character went through many relationships in the course of 5 years, and then finally found herself in the world a lesbian nation and falls for a girl? But this is not a fleeting feeling like her past relationships. It aspires to be a true romance. This book recounts events that are true for the most part, and from a sense, a different type of story, and how Promise is drawn to love, a place to call home, and then abandons school and home altogether because of the controlling moments presented in this book, including Promise trying to leave a cafeteria on her own, only being told she can't, then told physical touch is sexual and abusive, and that it should never happen or be done or even seen or even realized by the character in this book. This book feels real and humanizes the woman I once knew. I write about conflicting feelings and emotions left behind from a past version of myself. I had once attempted to write a lesbian couple to mixed results. For this, it is considerably more at the front of the story, and as early readers have described with such passion, one of the greatest lesbian stories of our time. It makes you truly wonder what makes this book so different. When I connect you to the whole premise of Different, then you will begin to see the sheer scale of a story like Different. This book is the most charming, most wonderful book of all careers, shaped by literature, playfully constructing the character Promise as the physical embodiment of my dearest friend at one point, but with fictional elements added on. This novel spans two periods of time, the teen years and the adult years. We open the book up on events that unfold right before the graduation of Promise in middle school, awaiting a visit from her teacher and vice principal. We trace the experience with Promise with the forte of the prose of writing and a mix of poetic language in the book itself. At the midpoint of the novel, Promise leaves school for good, crafting her own empire of sorts, her own school to help people like her. And at the core of this novel is the dignity of a woman. And the novel indulges in the roles of womanhood and shifts it in completely different directions than you might expect. As the novel ends in the 2030s, we see not a suffering woman, but a wife and a activist, but not a monster, and she stands at the opposite end of the world, leading change and challenging the world with new hope and promise for women all around the world and education itself. The imagery, the symbolism in Different, which reoccurs in the woman I once knew, and the woman I think Promise would be if things were a bit different in real life. Promise is portrayed as a different kind of woman from the very start, observing her own rage and her own rebellious nature to the imagination of her own character. The most striking thing you'll notice in this book is how the prose is so neatly wrapped in the style of the thought of the character's mind and the thought of the POV, but in a more fluid sense of the narration of thoughts, the deepest moments and the fast, slow burn kind of moment. When you read this book, you appreciate the pleasure of the novel page by page, the flow of words ebbing onto the page with each passing page, which makes your heart play again and again and again. I was so scared to release a book like this, as I have never written such a story before. This book would make or break my career, because the themes in this book are highly aware of themselves, and at a position in my career, I knew it was better to speak up for the beliefs that may be shared between people and worlds. I didn't begin writing because I wanted to. It just happened, and over time, it was a hobby, then transformed into my career. I am well aware that this book will be controversial, different, and of course it contains the infinite complexity in our world and the world of Promise. This story has always been about you, Promise. Now the world witnesses that next June. Now, to end the talk of all shows and reflection, let's take a look at the first book after Different and the first book of 2026. Vision releases March 22nd, 2026, and it is a crime novel. Visions, the two meanings to a simple title. He has eyes, but over time, his vision has grown dull, though not completely blind. In dreams and moments, he has visions of the past, and in time, there was the breakdown of his life, bringing him to his own madness. For many fans, you can consider this my first ever crime novel, and in fact, you would be correct. In the course of conversation with many of my fans, I discovered a strong request for a crime novel. One brittle event, indifference, and tragedy events unfold. This novel is warm, yet it is frightening because it is familiar, because it has a sense of a style of writing you might have seen only a few years ago with a book like Sound. But that familiar feeling strikes you as odd as you dive deeper into the pages of this novel. It was only recently that the whole idea of this novel formed in my head. Welcome to the world of the Gateland Mansion in 1922. This mansion is far from just the setting of a crime scene. Instead, it dives into the origins of the power of vision itself. What is vision to a visually impaired person? Questions appear in the predator of the mansion itself. What happened here? It was not an unusual crime, but yet it was an unusual crime. Something came here to attract the souls of teens for a reason. This is all set up in the prologue of Vision. It sets up the groundwork for the events that unfold in our second timeline, 1962. The story in this book is presented in an unusual way for a crime novel, alternating between free periods of time. It tells the life of Ian Shine. Picture this: uncontrollable visions of his eyesight are dim and usually dark in the wake of his morning routines. In certain places and feeling, he experiences a overload of his whole body. He sees things that don't make sense. The power he tried to dim in childhood through the abuse of wine, it dims the shadow of his mind, but only for so long does it work. In 1962, he finds friends in what they all witness, the event that unfolded in 1922. They see their town has always been in control, their corruption in their city. The kids feel that, but it seems that it is more present here than anywhere else. Each of them see the Gateland mansion, which as of now is owned by the Shine family. Something in this town feeds on souls so that one day something can be released. All these clues, witness, and events lead to the mist spot where tragedy strikes, and they are faced with an entity from which the mind can never truly understand fully. 6 kids die that night in the mist spot. Ian Shine is the only survivor. Themes, rage, and memory have passed, haunted by the outwinds of the past and the spot that tethered away with his leave from San Francisco. Memories just fade. He doesn't remember it. He doesn't remember how his friends died, only that they once were there and then they were gone. Covered in a listless gown, that now child becomes a man in the darker shades of a crime that unfolded in 1922 and in 1962. Reach and pull bring him back to where it began, but this time he remembers it all. Now the military bring him in to solve a long time old crime through his psychic abilities. Returns come with an unexpected twist from the mellow reaches of his grasp. He meets a character we know very well. Rumble has returned in the tatter of missions, and the two are brought together through not age, but instead the return of a mission, which is the way we expand the character of Rumble for the first time in many years. Deepen the emotion, deepen the depth and the scale of impact Rumble has on people. She learns of Veen's powers early on and knows its full potential and even its danger. The final time period brings you all the way to 2023. Returning to Rumble so many years later was a great experience. It makes you wonder what kind of place Rumble would be in her life now. People often ask me what happened to Rumble. Now you get those questions answered while also telling a original new story. I wanted to explore what Rumble might be doing with her life now in 2023, but also exploring the themes of parental mistakes and how she has grown with her deafness over time. This book will be released in March, but I am doing something I've never done before. It will be released in serial form, one chapter per week for many weeks till you reach the end of the novel, and it feels quite fitting for a crime book like this. This will also be released online on my official website for video formats. I am so thrilled with this idea, and I think it will be to create one immersive experience fan base itself. It will also probably make your engagement with my book more immersive and get your hype through the roof, which seems to be what you love. And I can't wait to see your reaction to this book next year. To wrap up what has been one of the most wonderful things I've ever put together, I want to let you know I'm not leaving writing or publishing anytime soon. Some people have believed after 2026, my career is done. I've done nearly everything I've ever wanted to do in my life. I've done more things that most people have done my age. I left writing once, never again. It's my life, and I love the connection we've built over the years, and I wouldn't have it any other way. You are the reason I can do what I do. Without you, there would be none of this. You are the people who made this dream impossible and made it possible for me. And for that, I am thankful. You have supported me from every release, every creative thing I've ever done. You've always been the reason I do this. The time of my fame arrived a long time ago. Now I have a favorite thing to look forward to: the fan connection. The fan connection has always been my favorite part of this, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I have no regrets for the dream that came true. The time of fame has arrived, and with it came the fan connection, and I can't wait to share more stories with you. Each and every time we do this, I love it. Along the way, the cruel and mean came, and I faced them all the time. So, yes, this has been all worthwhile. All because of you. This exists. So, no, I am not leaving writing in 2027 or 2028. I am not leaving this life behind. Now, where do we end this? In 2027, you can expect even more books, even more adventures. Even though I might not be with you in the same room anymore, I am still there, just a bit further away. Keep your dreams close. Keep what you've built. Move forward. Expand and it change the standard. Fame is a wound and a blessing. Here's your battles. Crawl from the bottom to the highest hilltop. You will bleed out, you'll return. And sometimes you'll think of choosing the simple life. But I urge you to take the hard path because it will lead to great happiness. Some things you will learn on your own, some will be taught to you. Otherwise, it's up to you. This life will beat you up. This life will be happiness. You'll change the world, but also yourself for good reasons. Thank you for giving me the ability to do what I love. I can't wait to see how you expand, how I expand, and how I change, and how you might change. For you, it might be age, style, or color. For me, it's always been the writing style, or a new creative medium like this one I present today. Who knows what it might be? What comes next? What might come next in the next year? But one thing I do know, it doesn't end here. And that is a wrap on Book Publishing Day 2025, or as we will call it, moving forward, Robert Lee's Day. Remember, it doesn't end here, it grows.